Hey guys! So today's video is going to be a little bit of a helpful guide on when you're writing personal statements. Because it can be really tricky and they are really crucial. I know a lot of people say, well, they're not that important, only grades matter. That's not true. They will be reading it because they do want to see the kind of person you are, especially if it's for a course like veterinary medicine, which is kind of very specific, and they do want specific people. They have interviews, so they pick you out really specifically. So I'm going to be focusing on that because that's what I did, but it is kind of general advice. So if you're not doing that, you can always sort of watch it and retain some of the tips that I say because they will be relevant to you as well. Okay, so first of all, the introduction. It's really crucial. It's the first thing they read. It's got to stand out. It's got to be concise, and it's got to be interesting. So I would say maybe choose a theme which kind of shows your interest in the kind of field that you want. So for example, if it's law, if there's a specific part of law that you find interesting, that you like, you can mention that. For example, for vet, what I did was how diseases travel and how they affect humans and animals. So that sort of showed my interest in also a bit of the research side of everything. And so it's sort of they see that you've done your research and that you've kind of picked through the subject and kind of know a little bit about it. So make it concise, make it very clear, and make it interesting. Make it short as well. Don't make it too long. And maybe choose a few that you like, a few sentences, and then pick one that flows best with the rest of your personal statement. And that's pretty much it for the introduction. You're gonna wanna leave a lot of space for the middle chunk of the personal statement, which is, if you're doing vet, that's gonna be all your work experience. So how I structured it was, I wrote the placement, the amount of time I did in that placement, because a lot of times they will not be getting references, they won't ask for them, so they do want to have all that stuff written out in your personal statement. So you want to do that, basically right after that you want to write all the skills you've learned. For example, where I did my clinical work experience, I did x-rays, and then we did vaccination, we did sterilizing techniques, and sort of any general things that you've learned that were kind of obvious to you when you did it. Write those out, and then for each placement you're gonna want to be a bit analytical and a bit critical about what you've seen, and also how sort of the vets were in your placement. They want to see that you've retained something for the experience. Don't just write it out and that's it. Say something you thought interesting, that you saw that you thought was interesting. For example, in one of my placements, the vets were asked to treat these puppies that had parvo, which came from puppy mills, and I saw how they dealt with the situation of having a provider that wasn't up to code, and just say, do you think they deal with it well or not, and basically how you felt about the experience, how this opened your eyes to the field, and how it makes you think differently of the field. And you can do this with law or with economics or with anything really. Okay, so you're gonna want to do that with all your placements, and write differently, write a different experience or a different thing that stuck out to you. When I did to farm, for example, I met this really interesting person he came from the US, but he was doing sort of research, and I think they like to hear that stuff. It makes them sound like you were paying attention, and that you were really present, and you took a lot from the experience. It wasn't just something you did because you had to. So you're gonna want to do that, and then the part before the last, before the conclusion, what I do suggest you do is add skills. So what they want to hear is that you're not just obsessed with your course and that's it, and that's all you care about. that makes you sound kind of one-dimensional. So what you're gonna want to do is maybe, if for example I did tutoring, and then I did some courses to volunteer at a hospital, and I also volunteered at a charity foundation, and you're gonna want to write that stuff out so it makes you sound like you're like a team player, and that you've sort of got other hobbies. For example, like sports, that's really cool if you mention that, because it is a stress reliever, and they like to hear that you can handle stress and you could handle university life, and that you're pretty much social, that you're not just like staying at home all the time studying and then just doing work experience. It gives you like a bit of depth, and I think it makes you sound like more interesting person. Then like the last part, pretty much the conclusion, should just be a sort of summary of the experience, and if there was like anything that, for example, you understood from your work experience, like I have realized and opened my eyes to the possibilities of what this could offer me, or that I think I'm very well suited for a possible career or path in something like specific of your course, something like that makes you seem like, yeah, I've understood what I've done, like I've understood my experiences, and I'm really sure that I want to take this course. Like that's what they want from personal statements. They want to see that you're right for that course. So again, choose something quite, it needs to sound well, like it needs to sound complete. And if for vet, again, mention maybe any future work experience that you're gonna do. If you're gonna take a gap year like I did, you can go ahead and mention. I think they like hearing about that. It makes you sound like you're open and you don't really have like anything to hide or anything, and that you're gonna take it as an opportunity to do more work experience and open your mind to new experiences. Also, after you've written it, make sure it flows. It needs to sound good. Don't go overboard with synonyms and stuff. Actually, like, don't use them at all, because they just make you sound kind of like, it makes it sound really, you're trying so hard to sound sophisticated. Don't do that. It doesn't need to be crazy complicated. Like, if it's simple but clear and it sounds well and it sounds interesting, that's all that they want. From top to bottom, use the space well. Don't just go on and on about something that is like kind of, that you think is good but is kind of irrelevant. Like, you have very little characters, and you'll notice once you start writing it that you'll run out really fast. And another piece of advice, just get help. Like, for example, my English teacher proofread mine and my parents read it, and make sure loads of people read it and that you listen to their advice, and also proofread it just for like spelling mistakes. If you're not that good with spelling, I am not. So I did get my English teacher to sort of make sure the grammar was all right and all that stuff. So I think that's it. Just make sure it sounds genuine. It doesn't sound too fake. Talk about stuff you know. Don't go on about stuff you don't really know. And that should be it. It's just, as long as you get other people to read it and they okay it, it should be fine. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned for my other videos on interviews and A-level advice and studying advice. Bye!